Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the original miniseries, Salem's Lot, in its new Arrow 4K edition. This is one of those things I never thought we'd see in 4K. Matter of fact, a year or two ago, I picked up a cheap steel book of the original Blu-ray, and it just was the miniseries, not without all the extras or the different versions. Salem's Lot is based on Salem's Lot by Stephen King. It's had several remakes. They've tried to make a theatrical sequel, a remake, another miniseries, a couple other miniseries. There was one in 2024, actually, that I haven't seen because, honestly, I just don't think they could do this any better. When it was on CBS back in November of 1979, it was in two-hour installments with commercials and everything. Went on to get a whole bunch of positive reviews, 3 Emmy nominations as well. It's been broadcast repeatedly after and had a major impact on the vampire genre. Larry Cohen directed a sequel, A Return to Salem's Lot, that didn't do very well. Like I said, there's been a couple other miniseries, another movie version. This Arrow 4K edition is just one of those things you wouldn't think that would get a 4K upgrade, but Arrow has gone the extra mile. They got the original 35mm film elements, and it is in square. It's got pillar box. You got pillars on the sides, 1.33 to 1. But it looks fantastic. So on disc 1, you get the 2-part miniseries that are about an hour and a half each, or you get the whole miniseries put together in one little over 3-hour sitting. All of that has been remastered in 4K from the original film elements. Looks and sounds great. It's still not, it's not Dolby Atmos or anything. This is 1979, but the soundtrack was good for what it was. On the second disc, there's the theatrical version, which is a shorter, little over 2-hour version of the 3-hour movie that has things cut out, but also has a few extra things in there. Plus, there's stacks and stacks of extras. There's a book. There's a poster. All comes in a hard box for a reasonable price from Arrow Video. If you haven't picked it up yet, it just came out in last week. I watched part 1 one night and watched part 2 the next night. I had not seen it in years, was kind of wondering how it would play now, and I was blown away by it. It was pretty hardcore for TV back in 1979, and some of the stuff would be even pretty hardcore for today. The best thing that they did in making this and bringing it to television was hiring one of the most influential horror directors. Of course, back then he'd only made a few movies, but Tobe Hooper was brought in, the guy who was behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre and would go on to do things like Life Force and other movies. He knew what he was doing as horror goes, and having to keep it within the parameters of what was okay on TV back then had to be difficult, because you could tell there were a couple places that I went, oh, if I had seen that on TV now, I would have probably questioned it. In 1979, impressive. They got away with some, making kids into vampires, biting other kids. That's kind of controversial, by today's standards. And the way they handle the whole vampire lore has had a lot of influence on movies going forward and the vampire genre in general. They make the vampire Barlow look like the old Nosferatu character, but it works in the context of this. But they're making more vampires as the town slowly turns into vampires. Things get darker and weirder, and it's been a long, long time since I read the Stephen King story this is based on. The book. I couldn't tell you if it sticks to the book, but I understand it's a pretty well-respected version of that novel. My mom was into Stephen King when I was there. I read Carrie and Salem's Lot and Shining, a lot of those when they first came out, and never revisited them because now the movies are stuck in my head. But this is one I might go back to because I love vampire stories, and I think this holds up as a really good vampire story of somebody coming to town and kind of taking the town over, but it plays with those tropes a little bit, and like I said, it's been influential enough that from 1979 on, some of those things stuck. The first time one of the kids is floating outside a window and scratching on the windows, it was still creepy, and I'm well beyond the age that this should bother me, but I could understand that it was creepy. It was, wow, that really well done for its time. And some of those scenes have been used and recreated in other movies and TV shows down the line, but this is where they came from, some of these vampire ideas. So very impressive what Tobe Hooper was able to do with a TV miniseries based on a Stephen King in 1979, America. Had to be hard to get that to the screen in the version they did. And I have not watched the theatrical version to compare to see what it's cut out or how it looks. I did pop it in, and it is still 1.33 to 1. It's not like widescreen or anything. But the extras were impressive. I haven't finished going through all those. The booklet has a great essay in there. The poster is two-sided with old art and new art. I did like the art and the reversible art on the cover. Arrow does great editions with these movies. And this is just one I never thought there would be a 4K edition of Salem's Lot. But here we are. And if you're a fan, this is a no-brainer to pick up. It is everything you could possibly want in a collection. There might be some interview or some behind the scenes out there that's lost that maybe was on an original DVD or something, but I think this is everything that was on my Blu-ray, which I don't really think I had a whole lot of extras. The interviews, the behind the scenes, the stuff, how this got made, very interesting, and the movie or the miniseries actually holds up. Really enjoyed it. So check it out. If you were thinking about it, it's the best this thing has ever looked and sounded. So pick up the Arrow edition of Salem's Lot if you're so inclined. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. This will be something I'll pull out probably at Halloween for a 2-night event, or maybe watch the whole 3-hour thing. It was good. More podcasts on the way. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a spectacular day.